lack of understanding. Like you see this big epidemic of people calling everyone a narcissist. And that generally happens because people are very unfamiliar with what's called a falsely empowered codependent. Most people just think codependency is on one side of the scale, the typical clingy, needy, people pleaser who gives themselves away. But there's the polar opposite side of that scale. What our society holds up as the most successful, powerful people, the people that are normal and have their life together, all the achievers. Well, almost in every case, what you have is what's called a falsely empowered codependent. These people are struggling with the same amounts of low self-esteem and shame as the so-called disempowered codependent, the ones we typically think about. But they're using that low self-esteem and shame as a fuel source to achieve. They're pursuing what's called outside or other esteem. So that's why they're so dedicated to working 100 hours a week and producing so much. Everything is about what they accumulate outside of themselves. And they don't, because underneath, if they didn't achieve things, they would be hit with the underlying low value and low self of worth that they experience. So it's a coping mechanism. Now, I'm not saying, wanting to succeed is a bad thing. I'm just, bringing people into reality, what drives a person's desire to succeed. And you can prove it. Just think of yourself. Listen to any athlete, listen to any successful person. Behind all of them, listen to what their origin story is. It's always about pain. It's always about something horrific that they experienced. That's why I talk about in my first book, Your Journey to Success. Your career tells me about, what your childhood trauma was. Mr. Barrels Galore says, you're talking about my girlfriend. Yeah, we've conditioned women now to be very love avoidant, very falsely empowered codependents. I find that whole feminist movement perplexing because what they told women, the solution to women's disempowerment was to drop everything it is to be feminine and go become what they hated, a man. Think of the messaging women are receiving. They're all being trained to be falsely empowered codependents and pursue things outside of themselves. But what's fascinating is studies show the most dissatisfied people are women in their 30s to 40s who pursued their career and stayed single and took on the characteristics of being a man. And now they've basically run themselves out of the dating market. There are just, things that men look for. Well, now at that age, and now that because women date hypergamously, they're always, looking for someone, a man who is above them in status and income. Well, as more women move up that scale, they have a smaller and smaller amount of men to choose from. But also the highest level of narcissism, sociopathy, psychopathy in men are in the top 10% of men. And so they're complaining about men these days, but because, with the advent of social media, Instagram, all of this, women have access to men all across the planet. So what you have is 90% of women chasing this very small sliver of men. They're all going after the same guy. So they're doing what's called polygamy, which is where all the women share one man. And so they're all dating the same guy. And then they're wondering why they can't get commitment and why the men cheat and why they're so bad. Well, it has to do with our society's lack of emotional maturity and emotional growth. I'm going to pause for a second and check in on some of these messages. Yes, now younger women are on the same track. Yes, we're training. Again, the concept behind feminism and equality, great concept. The execution has been disastrous for both for both men and women, but especially women. Let me see this. Xenon Orion says, asked my son a bunch of questions yesterday, asking why I have to stay in a hotel for Xmas, why his wife won't talk to me, why won't she change? My son replied to none of the questions. Xenon, this is going to be tough, but your son gets to choose. We're never in control of anybody else. So what your son is saying is, my priority is now my wife, which it should be. And your son or his wife shouldn't have to change to please you. That's a codependent dynamic. Whenever we are asking somebody to do something, to change their thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, we are imparting what's called our reality. We're saying our truth matters more than yours. And unless you accept mine, there's a problem here. Well, that's probably, I don't have enough information on, the exact situation. I can only go by the words you put in here, Xenon. But what it sounds like here is you're trying to stay your son's primary female connection. Well, that wouldn't be healthy. A son should leave his mother and connect primarily to his wife and honor his wife and make her his primary attachment, not you. So the more you try and force that dynamic, the more you try and demand that he place you in that position, the more he's going to resist it, because it's not his role anymore. His role is to dedicate himself to his partner. And so I would need more information, but again, just by going on these words, when you put, why won't she change? I would flip that. What is in me that I need to change? Because you're trying to take control of the situation that you should have no control over. So again, I need more information, but based on that, it sounds like you're trying to enmesh with your son and keep a deeper emotional connection with him, when it should be the opposite. You should let him go and let him form that connection with his wife. So I bought the career, no children, stayed single, codependent, workaholic, general kitty. Yeah, that's what women are waking up to, is they're miserable. They bought into it's a feminist lie. It's a societal lie that's destroying both men and women. And the dating market is a nightmare for both sides. And men are responsible too, because men laid down. Men didn't stand up and go, whoa, 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 whoa. This isn't going to be healthy for us. Men were weak in allowing themselves to do this. Now we have a whole population of men who just roll over, and women get the ick at men who roll over. It's not attractive. They like a man who politely and firmly says, let's think about this. Let's have a discussion about it, because I don't think this is going to go well. That's not a bully. That's not a tyrant. That's a leader. But men just collapsed because of the societal messaging. Anything masculine now is bad. You're bad man. Like, just watch videos of bad man is bad. Everything about man is bad. Well, it's not working too well for either side. Let's see. Yeah, female, but masculine in endeavors. Xenon, I don't have enough information. You're saying your son is wicked to you. You're kind of asking me to solve a problem where I don't have enough information through, really, I can only make assumptions based on the words you choose. I know this: if a person is being wicked to me, I set boundaries with them. I don't allow that behavior. I go and look at, okay, what responsibility do I need to take? And that's the first place to start, is look at ourselves, not the other person. If someone's exhibiting wicked behavior, my response to them is, this isn't working for me. I'm wondering if we can talk about this in a different way. And if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. But I'm not willing to continue this conversation as long as you're saying things like that to me. So if you agree to that, I'm here for a conversation. If not, we can talk at another time. So in other words, I set boundaries, but I don't try and change somebody. Everyone gets to be wicked if they want. I get to decide. See, what I'm hearing as a constant theme in this Xenon is you want him to be different. Well, that's what's getting you into trouble, is you're focusing on him when the solution is the opposite. You need to focus on yourself and go, what am I observing? Because the only thing we can control is ourselves. And it's codependence to want somebody to be different instead of accepting, okay, this is the reality of who I'm seeing. Does that work for me or not? If it doesn't, then I set firm, polite boundaries, or I ask for my needs and wants. If they say no, I honor it. But I don't try and jam my beliefs or my wants and needs on somebody else. I just have to accept theirs. As soon as I put my purpose aside to give her what I thought she needed, my wife lost the. Yep, that's exactly what happens. Mumford's Garage says, as soon as I put my purpose aside to give her what I thought she needed, my wife lost the last bit of attraction and respect for me. Unfortunately, we just haven't taught both men and women attraction mechanisms. And as much as women say they want a kind, loving, emotional man, as soon as he gets compliant and emotionally available, that's when women leave. And women get upset about this, but 70% of all divorces are initiated by women. If they're college educated, that's 90%. That's not a man problem. And further proof of that is if you have two women, lesbian women with each other, they have the highest rates of divorce of any cohort. Whether two men have the lowest instances of divorce. So this isn't a man problem. I'm not saying men don't have, issues, but what I'm saying is in our attempt to empower women, we've actually told them a lie and disempowered them. It's been the messaging they've received is actually self-victimizing and worked against them. They have become that which they hated, and they're in denial and self-deception. And because our society goes, you can't ever say anything bad about women. And I'm not trying to bash on women. It's just, what color is that wall? It's yellow. The stats and studies show this. And, truth just doesn't sell. Our society just does not like truth. And I teach 4 things: truth, responsibility, healing, and forgiveness. So if you can't accept truth, you're lost. And truth is what we know to be fact. And so just some of the statistics I've showed you. I mean, dating apps, women only swipe right on 5% of men. They rate 80% of men as ugly. So women are making choices that set themselves up for failure. That's just truth. So what's the next step? We have to take responsibility, kind of like I was explaining to Xenon with her son. It looks, from what I can tell, she's focusing on him when she needs to turn the mirror back on herself and go, wait a minute, what part am I playing in this? Where do I need to get into truth? Where I need to get responsible? What sort of healing work do I need to do? Do I need to go gather more information, skills, and tools and grow as a person to understand this situation better? Now, again, I don't know the full situation. She may not be doing anything wrong, but I can only go by what the little bits she's sharing. All right, let's keep going through. And now we're starting to get so many people in here that if you really want me to answer something, you'll have to do a super chat, because I'm trying to scroll through here and find what everybody's saying and, address all of you. I have a question. I have BPD and CPTSD. After years of abuse and neglect, I feel like a ghost in my own body and mind. Barely function. Is it possible to recover? First of all, Smarty Pants, great question. And thank you for your vulnerability. And my heart breaks that what this tells me is your childhood was very rough. Those are things that are created in childhood. And we're not born that way, especially BPD. That's a childhood trauma dynamic. So the first step is you have to get to working with a professional like myself. You will not get out of this by reading books, watching YouTube videos. You're going to have to make a commitment that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like you said, you barely function. Is it possible to recover? Yes. But just like everything else, it requires work. We have to finally choose ourselves and validate ourselves and recognize I'm worth the investment. Committing to a process of recovery for people in tremendous pain, they see it as a cost. It's too expensive. Again, get into truth, turn that back around on yourself and go, wait a minute, do I hear what I'm saying? I'm saying I'm not worth it. That I'm a cost, that pursuing working with experts to recover from this is a cost. I don't have enough value. Well, those are messages that were learned in childhood. They were sent either directly or indirectly. So if you're not ready to work with a professional, then I would, my suggestions, I've written 2 books. Your Journey to Success will show you the beginning steps of what everyone on this planet is stuck in, what I call the worst day cycle, how we've all been through childhood trauma, and we are repeating that against ourselves willingly as adults. We will choose our careers, relationships, everything to replay the exact trauma against ourselves. It sounds a lot like repetition compulsion, but it goes the worst day cycle takes repetition compulsion to a completely new level, much deeper and more concrete, and shows that it's a human dynamic we're all stuck in. That's the first step of recovery. The second is my second book, Your Journey to Being Yourself. Sure, I get it. Sounds like a pitch to buy stuff. It is. It's everything I had to do to get out of these dynamics. And so, yeah, I want you to buy them because I know they'll help you. I had to live what's unique about me is most people get into this line of work. They go through a difficult childhood, they go to school, they get a degree, and they start teaching people. Well, I spent 30 years working with professionals and working on myself before I ever took on any clients. I lived the journey before I ever started teaching the journey. That is almost unheard of in the industry. And so I have a much different perspective. I had to figure out solutions that weren't available by all the experts. I had to uncover them myself because I couldn't get out from underneath all that. And so that's why, I've created the books. I have my online university of classes, and I work with people individually. So there's the sales pitch. But the question, Smarty Pants, is yes, you can get out of this. It's a choice. You have to decide you are worth it. And I believe you are, but you have to make that choice. There isn't any certain phrase I can say here that will instantly heal you or get you feeling better. It's an internal decision that you'll have to make that, damn it, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm going to do whatever it takes. That's what I did. I was bankrupt, going through a horrific divorce, living in an apartment with no furniture. I slept on the floor with blankets. I had 2 sawhorses, piece of plywood for my computer. That's it. And the only bill I paid was to go to my therapist once a week and group once a week. I knew I needed help. And that's the kind of choice we have to make if we're in severe pain and we want to get out. All right. Let's see. The drive behind codependency is shame. Well, trauma and shame, General Kitty. It's shame is a byproduct of trauma. And here's the problem with trauma. People think trauma is just the severe stuff. But we've all had this experience. Your parents rolling your eyes at you, your parents scoffing at you, your parents saying, oh, I don't have time for you. Your parents showing up late for an event, not showing up at all. Growing up in a single parent household is traumatic. It causes actual brain damage when there's a divorce in the family. These are all what we consider normal and no big deal. Being sent to childcare, that's traumatic on a child. Bouncing in between adult caregivers, being raised by an au pair or by daycare, that's all trauma. And so that gives the child a sense of, I'm not worthy. And so underneath all codependence is shame. All right. Let's see, Mr. Barrels Galore. My girlfriend is 23. I'm 39. We're separating now because she wants me to be all the boys before her to objectify her the way they did, the ones who traumatized her. I cannot do it. I respect women. Well, then it sounds perfect. Why would you want to stay with somebody who does what you're describing to me are your morals and values, your needs and wants, your negotiables and non-negotiables. What you just described is she doesn't fit what you want. So the question I'd ask is, why are you fighting for her or upset about it? If you are, that's codependence. See, here's what you have to recognize about relationships. Relationships are just pizza. What do you like on your pizza? Ask yourself this. Are you a meat lovers person or a veggie? Do you like a vegetarian? Would you ever shame somebody if you're a meat lovers and they like vegetarian? You just go, huh, isn't that interesting? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of veggie, but you wouldn't downgrade them or say there's anything wrong with them. And neither one of you would feel rejected if you like different pizza. Well, it's the same thing in a relationship. Everybody wants their own pizza toppings. She wants all the boys before her to be objectified the way they did, the ones who traumatized her. Those are her pizza toppings. She gets to have those pizza toppings. It's what she likes. Sounds like you like different pizza toppings. So neither one of you is rejecting the other. It has nothing to do with us. See, the codependent thinks this, she's not choosing me. It has nothing to do with me. No one ever rejects us. All they're ever doing is choosing their own pizza toppings. Now, a codependent thinks they're being rejected because of their underlying trauma, their underlying shame. They make it about themselves. It's a regression back into childhood where we needed our parents to love and accept us unconditionally. But we didn't get that. And that's where the underlying shame comes from that creates the codependence. And now I need you, kind of like Xenon. She needs her son to be a certain way. That's about her unhealed trauma from her own childhood. And Mr. Barrels, it sounds like, that's at play here too. All your girlfriend is choosing is different pizza toppings. Well, from what I hear, you want different pizza toppings. So put that on your dating profile. And you'll start attracting women that like your pizza toppings. And if you see signs of pizza toppings, what I'm hearing from you is her pizza toppings are non-negotiable. Well, don't take a bite. Just say no thanks to those pizza toppings. Choose somebody else. So thank God she's leaving you, because now you can go have the pizza you want and make pizza with somebody who likes the same toppings. It's a power struggle. Mr. Barrels is saying, well, yeah, you're being codependent. You're trying to get her to be what you want. You're trying to tell her, no, you need to eat my pizza toppings. Well, let me know how that works out for you. It's obviously not working out. That's codependence. It's a power dynamic. It's trying to get somebody to think, feel, and believe and do what we want. Well, the issue then is not them. It's us. Let's see. Who else here? Xenon, again, I don't have, you're asking me to be your therapist without giving me the full scope. And I can't act as your coach in this format with just bite-sized information. So, I'm doing the best I can based on the words you're choosing to share. And so you're right. I could have it all wrong. I'm open to that possibility because I don't have enough information. The only way I could properly guide you through the situation is if I had the full details. I can tell you based on the information you shared. See, this is the problem with therapists. They don't even learn about codependency. Psychologists, therapists, counselors, what they learn in school is how to diagnose a condition and prescribe medication. Unless a therapist, counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist has done an incredible amount of outside study and research, they know nothing about love addiction, love avoidance, codependence, any of that. So that's why if you look at studies on whether people improve with a counselor or therapist, virtually none of them do, because they're not taught these deeper things that you really need to know that teach people how to heal and understand these dynamics. They're not even taught it. I'm not blaming them. It's just not what they're taught in school. I can't tell you how many therapists, counselors, and psychologists and psychiatrists I've had as clients that I have to teach all of this stuff to, because they were never taught it. And I'm talking people, PhDs, master's degrees. I'm thinking of one who's very high level. Well, that would be too personal. I can't say that, but he's very high level in one aspect of brain disorders in the country. And he knows none of this. It's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking how vastly undereducated they are on these complex dynamics. So their ability to help people is very limited. So Xenon, again, I don't know your situation. You could be right. I could be totally wrong. But again, I'm just trying to grab little sentences. So please, well, you don't have to forgive me, but I'm doing the best I can with limited information. The only way I could truly coach you is in a private session where I got all the details. Okay. All right. Bossack, hi, I just had a baby a few days ago. My boyfriend has seen me crying at least 5 times, and 3 times I've gone to him about being overwhelmed. He just says one sentence, "You'll be okay." And one time he fell asleep. This is what breaks my heart about relationships. None of us are taught that before you ever get even close to committing to a relationship, there are 3 things you have to discuss. What are your morals and values? What are your needs and wants? What are your negotiables and non-negotiables? We all just think they're hot. They make me laugh. They've got money, whatever it may be. And the sex is good. And so we get married. But you need to sit and talk to somebody about literally every single topic. So when it comes to parenting, what are your beliefs? What if mother or father goes, is struggling after the birth is born? How would you handle that situation? Does anybody have that conversation? What are we going to do about parenting responsibilities? Do you believe it's, we share in that, or one is more responsible? What about finances? Who pays the bills? Do we join our finances? Is it separate? Like, nobody has these discussions. That's how vastly undereducated and immature we are about relationships. And it's getting worse because of social media. Our level of emotional development and relational development is decreasing with the rise. You can see the second social media popped on the screen, this massive drop. Because it's all designed to keep us immature so that we stay on and watch it. Like social media, if you're watching cat video type social media, you're damaging yourself. You need to get off of it. The only value in social media, the internet, is things like this, things where you actually learn. Okay. So my where did she go? That is right. The wall is yellow, Wilson says. General Kitty, Kenny, you're fabulous. Been listening to your codependency for years. You're very welcome, General Kitty. I'm glad it's helpful to you. I watched a couple of your vids months ago. You already helped me confirm this. Pizza toppings. Yes, that's right. Hey, Kenny, how can you deal with deep lies of people who you love, like family members? Oh, another sales pitch. My second book is all about self-deception and denial. And that's the single greatest killer on the planet today. It's not COVID. It's not cancer. None of it. We're all, because of childhood trauma, we all go into the worst day cycle. There are 4 stages: trauma, fear, shame, and denial. Denial is the killer, because then the only way we can survive our childhood is to create a false persona. We learn how to lie to ourselves, because think of it, we're helpless. We have to make sense of this perfectly imperfect environment. So we develop a belief system about our family and about the situation that minimizes it. That's a lie that says, this isn't a big deal. I'm okay. This is normal. So we all learn to lie to ourselves. And so in almost all of these situations, Wilson, what you're discovering is people's self-deception. And you could literally hold this up in front of them. This was my father. They say cancer killed my father. It's not true. Denial killed my father. My father was beat to death severely as a child. I'll get to this in a minute. My father was beat to death severely as a child. And so he was filled with so much shame, my father couldn't be wrong. If I held this up and said it was water and he had just said it's Coke, there is nothing I could ever do to move my father off his own internal lies, his self-deception, his denial. He could not admit he was wrong. And so, Wilson, what you're experiencing are people stuck in the worst day cycle in their denial and self-deception. They cannot remember the worst day cycle: trauma, fear, shame, denial. Its solution is the authentic self cycle: truth, responsibility, healing, and forgiveness. Well, the only way any of us get into truth is you have to become an expert at learning how to literally gut yourself and see how much self-deception you're in. With every single client, their greatest breakthroughs come when I walk them into their denial, self-deception. I don't tell them, I show them so they can't refute it. And that's when the wall falls. But a person has to be broken enough or in enough pain where they're ready to reach out for help. Those who refuse help or say it costs too much, they're getting too many benefits from staying the victim. They don't want truth because they have all these people listening to them and supporting them. And many people go to counseling and therapy to get there to manipulate. They don't know they're doing this, but they're trying to get their therapist and counselor to buy into their narrative so they can stay the victim and now co-opt the therapist. Oh, you're so right. They're terrible. I can tell you this: in every situation, mother, child, father, child, husband, wife, friends, both of you are playing an equal part in the dysfunction in the relationship and the acrimony. Neither side is ever fully responsible. Both are responsible. That's just truth. And if you don't see how you're playing a part in this acrimony in your relationship, that's your problem. Because you're focusing on them. That's your problem. That's why the relationship isn't working. It will never work until you learn the concepts of how to confront your self-deception and denial. And that's what this lays out. There isn't a book on the planet. That's why I wrote this. Nobody's teaching this. It's to me the differentiator between what I teach and everybody else. Nobody's teaching you this. It's the single most important factor if you want to live the life you're meant to live. You have to become an expert in discovering how full of you know what we all are. That was my breakthrough, is when I finally figured this stuff out that nobody was teaching. I had to discover it on my own. That's when everything flipped. That's when I finally got to what I call the other side. So anybody here, if you're in any relationship dynamic, whether it's a parent and a child, brother and sister, husband and wife, friendship, work colleague, any of it, if it's not working, you're in deception in some area. And until you make yourself the focus and look at how you're playing a part in it, it's just going to get worse. You'll never solve it. And the reason you don't want to do that is you want to stay stuck in the worst day cycle as the child. You're asking the other person to be the parent you never had. And if you don't all of this would be for someone, since most of society hasn't been educated on how all of this works. This is why my channel has low views and everything, because truth doesn't sell. We don't like the truth. We like our victimhood validated, and oh, you poor thing, it's them. But that's why the world is the way it is. That's why we're all struggling. All right, let's see. She is mentally ill. Mr. Barrels, I'm trying to keep up with you. If you want me to work with you, please use the links on my, underneath this chat. You can book a direct session with me. I'd be happy to help you navigate these dynamics. Nicole, morals and values, non-negotiables. Oh, Nicole C. Let me go through that, because these are the things nobody, and I have videos on this, Nicole, under my codependence and relationship playlist. These are the single 3 topics that must be dealt with while you're dating to find out if you want to be in a relationship. First of all, morals and values. Everybody has that mixed up. Morals are just, do you think is something good or bad? Our value is what most people think are our morals. So somebody might value monogamy. They would see somebody who's non-monogamous as morally bad. They might see, that. So that's how you look at this. So do you believe in 50-50? If somebody doesn't, they're morally bad. If somebody does, they're morally good. So you need to go through every area of your life. See, this is why people can't find relationships, is they don't even know themselves. Every single client I've ever worked with, nobody knows what their values are. Perfect example was a person I worked with who'd been married 16 years and got in touch with me because her partner wouldn't stop smoking pot. And she was ready for divorce. And so I already know what's going to happen. And so I listened to her and let her vent. And then eventually I said, so tell me how you guys met. And I already knew the answer. Oh, some friends were having a block party and I went in the garage to get a beer. I heard some people talking outside. I walked around the corner and there he was with a bunch of my friends smoking a joint. She never, ever sat down and asked herself, what are my values? What do I see as morally good? From day one, her values were, I don't like people who smoke pot. But she never looked at herself. She just thought, oh, he's cute, he's funny, sex was good, whatever. And they got married. That's why relationships fail, is everyone says they know what their values are. They don't. They don't. And then they go against them nonstop. And then they want their partner to change and blame their partner. That's what I was saying to Barrels. Barrels is going, she's telling you her values are to be treated this way. These are her pizza toppings. And you're going, no, 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 no. You shouldn't have those. Well, she's not the problem. Barrels is. Just like this woman. His pot smoking wasn't the problem. She was. He showed her from day one, this is who I am. These are my pizza toppings. And she ignored them. Denial and self-deception are the greatest killers on the planet. She was in deception about who she was and what she wanted. She didn't know her own truth. She set herself up and she wanted to co-opt me into celebrating her victimhood. Well, that's not love. Spreading lies, affirming somebody's self-deception is the essence of evil. Truth is love. So I lovingly confronted her and showed her the truth of who she is. It's now up to her if she wants to adjust her values and see pot smoking as morally good or bad. If she wants to stay in the marriage, she may choose not to. But that's what's important. So if you're in a bad relationship, it's always because you never looked at your values and you chose somebody that's doing something that you see as morally bad. You want them to change. They're not the problem. You weren't in truth about yourself, didn't take responsibility, didn't do the healing work. And so actually the person you can't forgive and you're upset with is yourself, not them. The problem is never them. They're our teacher. That's why we pick them. That's what you learn in this is all of your bad relationships, everybody that's hurt you, you pick them on purpose to show you how you're in deception and where you need to get in truth, take responsibility, do the healing work so you can forgive yourself. The second you do that, you're set free. Okay? So, the second step, needs and wants. Needs are things we need to survive: food, clothing, shelter, water, money. Wants are things that bring us joy. What happens with all of us, because we're codependent, we're emotionally immature and relationally immature. We pursue our wants. We buy the brand new car. We go to Starbucks every morning. I can't afford working with you, Kenny, because I have every streaming service, every app. I'm spending all this money on my wants, not my needs. And so we need to know the difference between needs and wants. And we need to look at ourselves. It's like if I'm going to take a vacation, I go, will this vacation harm my needs? In other words, will it deplete my bank account enough so that I can't do these things that I need in my life? Well, again, we've all been taught, especially with social media, everyone's pursuing their wants. Well, that's why we have the highest levels of debt, the big income disparity, all of that stuff, because we're emotionally immature and we're in deception that we're the problem. And we need to get into truth and take responsibility to change that. Now, once you know your morals and values, your needs and wants, think of those as pizza toppings. Then when you ask questions while you're dating and you hear them, what the other person likes, you can decide, is this negotiable or non-negotiable? For instance, I grew up in a very clean house. My second wife had we lined up on so many of morals and values, needs and wants, but she was a total pig. But I looked at it and I'm like, okay, I'm hyper clean. It's negotiable. I could lay off of that. And we had a discussion. These were our morals. I said, hey, I value cleanliness. I see that you don't. Can we have a discussion? And so we discussed it. And what I was willing to negotiate was like, look, I'll let you make your piles all over the house. And I will push myself as far as I can to sustain your mess. But there will come a day I'm going to walk in the house and I'm going to hit my limit. And so we need to come up with something that we both agreed to deal with that. What we agreed to was when that day hits, I could scoop up all of her piles and stuff it in the closet. And so on those days when she'd walk in and she goes, where's my, and she'd get all angry and then she'd pause and she'd go, she got into truth and took responsibility. She went, oh, shoot, it's in the closet. Well, if I didn't want it all jammed in the closet, I could have put it away, but I chose not to. So we negotiated something. Now, other things are non-negotiable. Like for me, I know everybody does drugs, and especially pot. Absolutely non-negotiable. You do it once, gummies to sleep, I don't care what it is, done. I know pot is horrible for people. They can't be present. It's horrific stuff. Now, I'm a recovering alcoholic. My mom was an alcoholic. But someone who has a drink here and there, big deal. Drunk a couple times a year, big deal. Those fit my morals and values, needs and wants, negotiables and non-negotiables. So Nicole, that's how you work through that. All right, let's see who else has questions. Where to buy your work? Yes, you can buy all of my books on Amazon or from my on my website, everything. You hit the nail on the head. Love your honesty. Excellent work. Thank you, Wilson. Thank you, Nicole. I'm glad that's helpful. Let's see. Who have I missed? Bosick, I think I answered your question. Who else? Is there anybody else needing help? General Kitty, are you still there? Smarty Pants, I think I answered that. Type wish. Marie said wish so. I don't know what that means. Marie, can you expand on what it is you'd like me to talk about? Wish someone happy birthday when they ghosted you. Well, I guess it depends on your morals and values, Marie. I know personally for me, what I had to realize is I ignore people's words. I watch their actions. And if somebody's actions are showing me that they have no interest in me, I listen. I don't give them my time, talents, treasure, and effort. I walk away. My morals and values are I want someone who responds to me when I text them. I want someone who will tell me what they're thinking and feeling versus going internal, running away. And when I observe behaviors like that, it lets me know, oh, this person doesn't share my same value. Their pizza toppings are different. They think it's perfectly okay to ignore things like this. You get to have those pizza toppings. They're just not a fit for me. That's non-negotiable. And so I choose not to pursue that type of person. So I'm actually thankful when somebody exhibits behaviors that are non-negotiable for me, because now I go, okay, I'm free. I get to now spend my time pursuing somebody who likes the same pizza toppings. Remember, it's not a reject. Them not responding is not them rejecting me. They just decided they like different pizza toppings. They want someone who doesn't care if they don't respond. They want someone who chases them and they never have to invest in them. Well, good for you. I'm not going to, this was the problem with Xenon. She wants the world to be the way she wants it, based on her words anyway. That's not going to work out. I've never seen it happen. Where you just demand something from somebody and they go, okay, I'll do it. They'll only do it if it fits their morals and values and it's negotiable and it's a pizza topping they like. And so if somebody exhibits behavior that shows they don't like this pizza topping, instead of arguing with them, see, self-deception, force, and codependence forces us to argue with them. You should be different. You should see the world the way I see it. Well, if that's true, so think of that position. The person who's saying to somebody else, you're wrong. You should believe what I believe. Well, if I get to play God, because that's what we're doing, we're saying, I'm God, I know better than you. Why can't they play God? Why can't they do that to us? And that's what happens in relationship. That's what children stuck in the narcissist. I mean, there's a natural development of a child. One stage of child development is the narcissistic stage, where it's all about them. All of us go through that stage. We have to go through it because it's what allows us to create our individuality. It's healthy. It's normal. But people arguing over their reality, saying, you have to accept my truth. Those are people who've regressed into that narcissistic, godlike child stage, going, I am God. Everything revolves around me. You have to believe what I believe. Well, you're welcome to do that. I just make the choice not to join somebody in that. So I go, I see that works for you. Well, it doesn't work for me. I let them stay there. I don't try and convince them to leave. I allow them to be where they want to be. All right. Marie says, thank you. I won't congratulate him tomorrow. Marie, if I'm hearing you correctly, if it were, I'm just going to speak how I would handle that, which is just about me. You get to decide what works best for you. I just know when somebody is ignoring me, I choose not to give my time and attention to them. That's what works best for me. What I'm suggesting to you is you go figure out what works best for you. There may be a level of being ignored you're okay with. That's different than mine. All I'm suggesting is you go decide what works best for you. Now, the key is not to do things based on retribution. This is what's called negative control, where I use no. A lot of people think setting boundaries or saying no is I'm being healthy, when actually they're doing it to manipulate and control. They're like, if I treat them bad enough, they'll bounce back. No, that's manipulative. If you don't congratulate him or reach out to him in the hopes to manipulate him back in, I would look at yourself on that. Only do it if it fits your morals and values and what you and the way you like to be treated by somebody. If it falls in line, here's a perfect example of what that looks like. My second wife, we were dating, and at the time she was a waitress, and sometimes I'd go hang out at her work, and I noticed she was very attractive, and so all the men would hit on her and flirt with her and, you know, ask her to do shots with them. And one day I noticed she was doing shots with them, this table. And I flipped out, not at her, but I was learning about all of these dynamics. And so I went into, thankfully, I found one of the very few therapists who after school actually went and learned most of this stuff. You know, he actually got educated on what really helps people. And he said, Kenny, what can you control? He says, I hear that you're upset about her behavior. Can you control her behavior? I said, no. So what can you control? Me and my behavior. What are your morals and values, Kenny? Well, I don't think it's okay for a woman that I'm dating to be flirting and doing shots with other men. Okay. So if you don't like seeing her do that, what can you control? What can you do to protect yourself? Thought about it. I went, well, I don't have to sit and watch it. That's right. So I stopped going to her work. You stop by almost every day after I was finished. And after a couple of days, she's like, so are you coming by? I said, no, it doesn't work for me. She's like, what do you mean? You're not coming by? I like it when you come by. And I said, I hear that. And thank you for that, but it just doesn't work for me. She goes, what do you mean it doesn't work for me? I said, well, I noticed that you like to flirt and do shots with other men, which you get to do, but it just doesn't work for me. So I'm choosing not to put myself in a position to see that. Do you see? I didn't control her. I didn't tell her to stop doing something. Those are her pizza toppings. I'm observing. I'm in the dating stage. Who is she? What are her morals and values? What does she believe? At that point, she's showing me I don't listen to words. I watch actions. Her actions are showing me her morals and values are it's perfectly fine to do shots and flirt with other men right in front of me. So instead of demanding she change, trying to control her, I focused on truth and responsibility. I'm the one who has the problem with it. I'm responsible for whether I allow that behavior. And so I chose not to be around it. You know what happened? It's either the next day or 2 days later. She texts me and she goes, I quit my job. So what she did is she made an evaluation. If I keep these morals and values, I could lose out on Kenny. Which one do I want? It became doing shots and flirting with other men all of a sudden became negotiable. In other words, she's like, I can give that up because what I want, what I value more is time with Kenny. And that's how you handle people whose behavior doesn't work for you. If it's a deeper relationship, you have conversations, go, hey, I'm observing this. And you can ask for your need or want, are you willing to consider possibly doing this differently? But in the beginning, you don't have that level of intimacy and connection. And so it's up to you to take care of you. And that's what I was trying to get across to Xenon is she's trying to control everybody based on her words, and it's not her place instead of focusing on herself. So, you know, going back to who was it? Marie, you know, that's what you get to decide. What are your morals and values? If you don't want to be with someone who doesn't respond, then don't. And if they come back and go, well, I haven't heard from you, you just go, well, I just discovered that, you know, you don't like to respond to text messages and that doesn't work for me. What do you mean? I was busy. Okay. Yeah, you were busy. I just personally prefer that somebody texts me even when they're busy. That's just what works for me. See, all you're ever doing is talking about what works for you. You're never demanding they be different than they are. You're saying, these are my pizza toppings. You can either choose them or have your own. Either way, I want somebody to choose them. I'm not going to force them. That's the difference between, can you see this? Codependence and interdependence. Codependence demand, this is the relationship where two people join. Codependence demands you come do what I want. You give me these things. And if you don't, I'm leaving. Interdependence says, I'm willing to make these types of relationship deposits. And what we're looking for is somebody who is also willing to make similar relationship deposits. This is where we overlap and form a relationship. Some people, a love avoidant, a falsely empowered codependent, they want this very small. They don't want to respond to text messages. They want to live their own life. They're always avoiding relationships, so they want very little overlap. Somebody who's a more disempowered, love addict codependent, they want a lot of this. Neither one is better than the other. Neither is right or wrong. It's pizza toppings. So you have to go become an expert in your own perfect imperfections, your own dysfunctions, and realize, where do I fall on the codependent scale? Am I primarily a love avoidant, falsely empowered codependent, or primarily disempowered love addict? If you're more on this side, you'll want that circle to overlap more. If you're more on this side, you'll want less. And then figure out, okay, now that I know which one I am, which one do I play best with? All right. So what I had to learn was not only about those dynamics, but what creates those dynamics. Why does somebody become a falsely empowered love avoidant codependent? Why does somebody become a disempowered love addict codependent? That's the first step. Which one am I? Almost all of us. It's a scale, it's a spectrum. We exhibit behaviors on both sides, but we'll tend to lean more to one side or the other. Some people are on the polar extremes. Well, if you don't know that about yourself, how the heck are you going to know who to pick? Like, I have clients bring me dating profiles. I can just look at their picture and a couple of their words, and I can tell you, love addict, love avoidant, disempowered, fun, like the words people choose, like it's so obvious. It's like the simplest thing in the world to figure this stuff out. You just have to be willing to go learn it. Like, it's not that hard. It takes time and effort to study these things and understand them. But yeah, I've had clients, I'm like, well, so I bet his relationship with his mother is this way and his dad this way. And they're like, how do you know? And I'm like, well, do you see this? Do you see this picture? Do you see how his head's tilted that way? Like, all these subtle little things. Like, I just remembered this one picture of a guy sitting there with his mom and his head like this. I'm like, do you see he's still married to his mother? He was 40 some years old. I said, so if you're willing to be his mistress, go ahead. And her face just dropped. She went, oh my God. I never put two and two together. But yeah, he calls his mom every day. He sees her like 3 times a week. He's already married. And that's my point. When you won't learn this from a psychologist, therapist, counselor, unless they've done a bunch of work. They don't get taught this stuff. And so this is why, if you, it's so funny. I say this in thousands is an exaggeration. I have 3 videos on morals and values, needs and wants, negotiables and non-negotiables. I tell people they're the most important videos if you want a relationship, and they have like 5,000 views. Like, nobody watches them. And that's because of the worst day cycle. Denial and self-deception. We don't want to see ourselves. We want to stay the child and the victim. And what we're looking for is someone to be the parent for us. Because when I'm the victim, do you see what that is? That's a request for you to parent me. I need you to take care of me. It's a lack of emotional, intellectual, spiritual, relational maturity. We're stuck in a child stage. Well, do you think you're going to find a loving relationship if you're a child? You're not capable. And so it requires a tremendous amount of deep childhood recovery work. We have to learn to go become the parents for ourselves that our parents couldn't be for us. And from that place, we can have adult, mature, what's called a mature and moderate relationship, which is, I'll warn you though, like the reason I'm single, the dating pool is tiny. So few people are willing to go to this level of recovery, and women, because of the feminist movement, are in such self-deception. The second, I can't tell you how many women, the second they find out what I do for work, run. It's too much for them. They're not ready for this level of truth, responsibility, healing, and forgiveness. The society has trained them that they don't have to. So I will warn you, if you choose to learn all this stuff, your dating pool is going to be very small. And now with what we've done to men, they're stuck, total infants, playing video games, doing nothing. So you're going to have to recognize very few people have this level of maturity and moderation. But you have to decide what your morals and values are. I lived the other way, and I almost lost my life. I'm not willing to go back to that just to be with a woman. She has to be willing. I don't need someone to know everything I know, but she has to be willing to at least be open to truth. And I haven't found one who's willing to be open to truth. And that's why I'm single. All right, let's see. We expect to be treated how we would treat someone. We constantly disappoint ourselves. Well, General Kitty, I think that's a lie. I don't think most of us are aware. I mean, I don't know you personally and your level of recovery, but people's deception is they think they're treating people better than they do. And they think the other person is the problem. Whenever I see a comment that's about the other person, that lets me know this person still needs to look at themselves. And that's so I would need more information. Again, I don't know you personally, but that comment is a bit of a red flag. All right, Mr. Barrels is still talking about how his girlfriend is staring at other men. Well, and your girlfriend has said she's God. Well, it's up to you if that fits your morals and values, and those are your pizza toppings. If you're still chasing her, that tells me there's a lot of pain in your past, and you're stuck in the worst day cycle. And what you like about her is the pain that you're experiencing with her, because trauma creates an emotional chemical addiction to repeat the pain from the past until we heal it. It's just how everyone's brain is designed this way. It's not like, oh, that's not me. The human brain is designed to repeat what it's already done. The brain can't decipher right from wrong, good from bad. It's an automatic process in every person's brain to relive what it's already lived. That's just true for all of us. And so that's why we stay and get addicted to these people and can't leave, even though she's literally being totally honest with you, Barrels. She's saying, I don't want you, but you're staying. That's your part of this. Isn't just your trauma. It's how your brain works, which you're not to blame for. but it's our job to get into truth and take responsibility and retrain our brain so that it stops working against us and starts working for us. Heidi. Hi, Heidi. It says, what is the best way to apologize to my estranged daughter? Is an email too impersonal? I've realized I did cause her trauma, even though I tried to give her a better childhood. Great question, Heidi. That's very complex because it depends on the situation and why she's estranged and what she said when the estrangement happened. So there are a lot of, one of the problems with doing a live chat is, especially with the deep topics that I cover, there are thousands of questions I ask in a private session so I can funnel things down into exactly what a client needs that I can't quite do in a chat. But I'm going to talk in generalities and see if I can give you some basic guidelines. If your child has said to me, I never want to speak to you again, honor it. They get to decide that. They've told you what their morals and values are, needs and wants are, and what's negotiable and non-negotiable. If you continue to try and push against that barrier, you're being abusive. You are proving why they don't want to talk to you, because you want the relationship. It's all about you. And that's why they don't want you, because a parent's job isn't to demand that the child love them. This is the biggest problem in the parental alienation, parent-child estrangement, is the parent wants the child's love. They demand the child's love. The child is not responsible for loving you. They get to decide. But those parents have this godlike complex, like, no, I deserve it. No, you don't. Just like anybody else, it's earned. And people bring up the Bible, honor mother and father only if they're honorable. And an honorable mother and father would never demand that their child love them and be what they want to be. A parent's job is to create an environment, an emotional environment for a child to discover the world and who they want to become. It's not how parents parent. They try and raise a child into what they want to become. A loving parent allows their child to explore and screw up. And instead of going, what were you? You should have done what I said. They go, so what'd you learn about that? Does that work for you or against you? So I'm hearing you didn't like that outcome. Now, in that process, you can go, when I was in that place, I learned the same thing. And here's what I tried. Don't know if it'll work for you, but that's what worked for me. That's not how people parent. So, Heidi, if you're going to apologize, the key is learning the difference between an apology and amends. I tell people never, ever apologize, because how do we instantly feel when someone apologizes? Bad, right? We instantly feel like it's an unspoken demand to forgive them. Like, I've got to let you off the hook now. You apologize. Now I owe you this. Apologies never work. Nobody likes an apology. What people want is an amends, but we're not taught what an amends is. So this is what I teach all my clients. Own your side of the street. If you felt you made mistakes as a parent, Heidi, then line them out. I know I did this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and those were hurtful. And I am certain I did other things that I'm not aware of that were hurtful to you. And it breaks my heart that that's what I did. And because you matter, and because our relationship matters, I want you to know the plan I've put in place to deal with the things that I know about. This is the amends. It's all about the plan, a plan of action. So I've started working with a professional. I'm taking these classes. I'm doing this. These are the things I'm doing to address how I was perfectly imperfect and I hurt you. If you ever decide There are things in ways I hurt you that are not on the list, and you decide you want to share them with me. I'd love to hear about them, because I am committed to growing as a parent and healing the wounds that I caused. So I want you to know there's always an open door policy for you to share anything and everything that hurt you. And my promise to you is that once I know what they are, I will put a plan in place to work on them. That's an amends. That's how in any relationship, don't ever apologize. Go back to your partner, your child, whoever it is, and go, I've heard what you said. I can see I hurt you in these ways. And here's the process I've put in place to address that. So they can sit back and watch your actions and see if you've changed. Now, here's the secret to an amends. You never expect forgiveness. Nobody is ever responsible to forgive us. It's a choice they get to make. Our job is to learn to forgive ourselves. That's the only freedom we can ever get. And the way we learn to forgive ourselves is by doing the amends. We can then look at ourselves and go, did I do the right? After I became aware of my mistakes, did I make amends? If I did that, I'm forgivable. What is unforgivable is to know about the mistakes and not put a plan in place to address them and get better. That's unforgivable from yourself. So there's no demand ever placed on them that they let you off the hook or come back into your life. You're not doing this for them or to get something from them. You are actually doing this for yourself because it fits your morals and values to be the best mom possible. And so you're willing and you recognize parenting is a lifetime. And my job is to teach, to model to my child how to be a loving parent, not talk about it, but live it. So by going and living this model of amends, even if my child never talks to me again, the day when their child runs away from them, they're going to know what to do. And that's why you can forgive yourself. And that's why you don't need them to come back. Because you know, while I was perfectly imperfect here, I did my best to make amends. I can live with that. And I modeled what healthy, responsible parenting looks like. From that place, that's all I can control. And I can forgive myself. So Heidi, without a private session, that's kind of the best I can do to help you in that situation. Clown says, yep, can't reward that behavior with attention, independence. Question for you from Clown. As someone with NPD, it's possible for someone to fall into either of these if the power dynamic enforces it. Have you looked into the hypnosis conditioning element? Clown, are you, when you say either of these power dynamic, are you talking about codependence, whether they're falsely empowered love avoidant or disempowered love addict? I'm not quite sure what you're speaking of. So if you could share a little bit more, get a little more specific so I can answer your question, I'd appreciate it. Nicole, oh my God, I just figured this out. The dating pool, so small. I uploaded dating apps and a week later deleted them. Yes, that's because society has told women, you're all 10s, you're all perfect, all men are ugly and useless except the top 10%. Here's the difference between men and women. Women love conditionally. They don't love men for love. They've been trained to look for conditions. And in their defense, it was a brilliant mating strategy millions of years ago. You needed the biggest guy, the leader of the tribe, the strongest who could kill the most meat, because women are vulnerable when they're pregnant. So they needed conditions: height, status, income, food, protection. But they've never matured out of that. And so when they look at men, they look at height, status, and income. Well, they all want a man over 6 feet tall. Less than 10% of the men on the planet are over 6 feet tall. They all want a man who makes over varying 100 to 200,000, mostly 200,000. Less than 5% of the men make over 200,000, less than 14% over 100,000, and they all want high status, 1%. Now, so do you see what's going on in the relationship dynamic is polygamy, meaning all the women are sharing a small group of men because they want those conditions met. Well, what they don't realize is once you filter out of that small percentage, literally between 1 and 10% of all men on the planet, when you filter out some are fat, some are short, because some might have money and status, but not height, and most are married, you're at less than 0.02% of the men on the planet. And so the women are going, there's no good men out there. There's lots of good men. You just don't see them. Studies have shown where they've actually taken a woman and go, do you see that guy? And the woman goes, what? Where? Who? And the guy, and he's like, no, the guy, there's no, she says, there's nobody there. Go, no, the guy right there. Who? I don't see anybody. You don't see the mailman? And she goes, oh, well, he doesn't count. Women don't see men unless they fit in that category. That's a female problem. There are millions of men that are so-called average, under 6 feet tall, make a good living, have some stability and status, but they don't fit there. Women need to mature out of looking for conditional love. Now, here's further proof that women don't love men. Who's the romantic one? Women read about romance, women watch it, women listen to it, women demand it from men, but do women do romance? No, only men do. See, men love for the concept of love. We fall in love with yes, her beauty, but the person. And why is that? The only people women love unconditionally are their children. That's why most divorces happen when the children are born, because men go, wait a minute, I don't get that kind of unconditional love. What's that about? And that's why men love women conceptually, because who did we get unconditional love from? Our mothers. That's who women romance and love conceptually, their children. They don't know how to do that for men. That's the female side of the dynamic. And the feminist movement has just thrown gasoline on that. Told women, like made women more masculine, more independent, more cold, more detached, more conditional. Like, so it's not that there's a lack of available men. There's a lack of available women that are in truth taking responsibility, doing the healing work around, wow, he's right. I've got to mature out of this conditional phase because I can do it all on my own now. I can get all those conditions. I have to learn how to love a man for the concept of love. Yeah, that's the dating dynamic disaster everyone's going through. Let's see. I want to see if Clown. It looks like Clown. Oh, I see. Maybe Clown and Barrels are having a conversation. Okay. Uber One, thanks for everything you do here, Kenny. It's hard to find information specific to narcissistic sibling and codependent parent. You're right. And most of the information is superficial fluff. That's why I did all this, is I spent decades looking for solutions, and it's all what I call superficial bubblegum pop psychology. It makes people feel good, but it's not truth. It's not deep enough, because what did I say earlier? Truth doesn't sell. And that's why I have a smaller viewership and everything, is because all of self-deception and denial sells. It makes people billions of dollars. Truth. Man, does the human being have a very poor relationship with truth. And it's why we're all suffering. Anything about what could have caused, wait, the sibling also seems to be covert to make it worse, and the parents made the sibling go. Wondering if you have any thoughts on that dynamic. So Golden or Uber One, I think you're discussing um, a golden child. Yeah, golden. This is another misnomer. People will say when it comes to narcissists, they weren't because there's a lie that narcissism is genetic. All the studies they've done are on twins, but there's absolutely no evaluation of the parental environments they grew up with. They just check them at 20 years old. Like, it's just mind-boggling to me how the scientific community just doesn't want to deal. Nobody wants to deal with parenting because all of us would have to look at ourselves and get into truth that, yeah, we hurt our kids. And so that's why so much of the scientific literature is just garbage, because they refuse to deal with truth around all parents hurt children, and those wounds leave lasting impact. And so one of the biggest comments on my narcissism videos is, that's not true. I know somebody and they were spoiled rotten. That's what creates a narcissist. Spoiled rotten. It's one of the key indicators or key determining factors of what creates a narcissist is the golden child. Think of it. How are they acting as an adult? Like a golden child, spoiled rotten. The world revolves around them. Like, painfully obvious. Anything about what could, let's see. Heidi says, oh, good, Heidi. I'm glad the explanation helped more than I know. I'm grateful you caught this live as well. I'm glad it helped. Abandonment issues. Oh, okay. Barrels is talking about abandonment issues. Yes, this happens all the time. And I didn't want to bring this up, but now that you brought it up, Barrels, it sounds like you're dealing with a falsely empowered, love avoidant codependent, and you're on the disempowered love addict side, because yes, what creates the disempowered love addict is severe abandonment in childhood. And so they will put up with some of the most despicable behavior. And they tend to be overly nice, overly forgiving. All the things that even a healthy woman finds unattractive. Well, I wouldn't say a healthy woman wouldn't find that unattractive. I need to say that different. But the current dating environment, women penalize men who are kind and nice. It gives them the ick factor. The man who truly can be supporting emotionally, they don't like that. They say they do, but women are in massive deception about what they say they like and what they choose. All right. I mean, just look at dating. They're all dating the top 10%. The problem is them, not men. You know, sure, this small percentage of men aren't the best, but who are you choosing? There are millions of other men that you don't even notice. That's about you, not them. These men, you could stay away from these men all day long, but you'd have to deal with yourself. Now, a man who's struggling with love addiction and abandonment issues also needs to recognize, I'm the problem. I'm not getting love. Here's what is going on in the love addict's mind. In their conscious fear, what they're aware of is, please don't leave me. All I want is connection, and I will do anything. I'll go to counseling, I'll read books. I will die for this relationship. They're conscious of that. And they speak about it all the time, and they will literally do it. What they don't realize is subconsciously, they're scared to death of intimacy and connection. And this is where they're in deception. They don't realize that this obsessive neediness for attachment pushes people away. It's too much. And then to make matters worse, because they're so needy, when this person actually shows up and gives them care, they don't see it. They discount it. Completely invisible to it. And so, Barrels, what's hurting you is not understanding your perfect imperfections and how your childhood, how you're showing up still as the child. Well, I mean, most relationships are just two children together. So you can continue on that path and replay this dynamic as much as you want. But if you'd like more stability, you're going to have to do codependence and love addiction recovery work. All right, Clown, I'm chopped, short, and broke, but don't struggle with women. The thing people want is fantasy addiction. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, a lot of, a lot of women will date short, broke, ugly men if he treats them like dirt. Because remember, they're looking, because of their lack of emotional maturity, they're looking for those dark triad traits. All right, because he's somebody who could lead a tribe. All right. Let's see. Me 5A. Nicole is thumbs upping and saying, wow, not sure what about, but I'm glad I helped you. Greta, narcissism and Luciferianism. I've never heard, I'll just be honest, I've never heard of Luciferianism, so I can't speak to that. Yeah, thanks for the comment. I like the shirt too, Barrels. Let's see. Nadia, what do you think of non-dualism? My aunt firmly believes that by talking about our past and childhood trauma, we stay stuck. She says there's nothing to heal. She gets to have her reality, would be my response. All I know is the science would prove she's wrong. Our brains just repeat what it knows. So your life, your adult life, what your aunt doesn't realize is 95, Julian Jaynes discovered this decades ago, 95 to 97% of all our adult actions, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions, we're just repeating our subconscious programming. Where did our subconscious programming get programmed? Childhood. So if any part of your adult life isn't working, whatever part, it's because of your childhood, because that's all we're ever doing. People don't realize this. First, this is what breaks my heart, is the lack. This is why I did this channel. People are so vastly undereducated and wrongly educated. Every thought and every action you ever take starts with an emotion, a feeling. You feel before you think. Your thoughts are coming from your feelings and emotions. We're not born with feelings and emotions. We learn them in childhood. So if you don't become an expert in your childhood, how the heck are you going to change your thoughts and your actions? If you don't know that your so-called gut feeling, I talk about this in my first book. People follow gut feeling, and all they're doing is repeating what I call their trauma gut. Remember, our brain is addicted to repeating what it's already done. It doesn't care if it's good or bad. And so anything new, we get a negative gut feeling. The feeling is off. Our brain is designed to send that signal. We don't know this, never done it, bad, go away. So she can believe non-dualism. Sounds like it works for her. Okay. I'd look at her life and learn about her childhood, and you'll find out her adult life is exactly like her childhood. She's reliving the exact same pain she's never dealt with. And I bet the messaging she got sent in childhood is the exact same messaging she's sending to you. Shut down, don't feel like, her comment tells me about her childhood. So my response to you ultimately is where I forgot your name. Sorry, now I'm trying to find it. Nadia is go become an expert in how the brain and body works and how we process emotions, and you'll see your poor aunt is really struggling. And you don't need to. You can have empathy and just let her stay where she is. Okay. Greta, the other one. That's an interesting name. My 28-year-old daughter abandoned by her narcissist dad boyfriend. She was 1 year old. Now she idolizes him and despises me. That's very common. If one parent is a threatening parent, it can create what's called Stockholm syndrome. This is why when you see these posts on Facebook where mom or dad is saying, my kid hates to go with my ex, I can't believe the court makes me send them over there. Not always, but in most cases, the person the children are most afraid of is the parent making the post. It's an innate survival mechanism that when we're threatened with the loss of our self and our identity or personhood, like we might die, we will attach to the abuser, to the victimizer. It's a self-preservation technique. They discovered this. There's, Stockholm syndrome. It was a bank robbery years ago, and they held all these people captive and hostage. And by the end of it, all the hostages had formed a circle around the bank robbers as they exited. They were all using themselves as human shields to protect the bank robbers. One or two of the women married a couple of the bank robbers. And so that's why your child is idolizing, because that's the unsafe one. So your job is to go become an expert in narcissism, go become an expert in parental alienation. Instead of blaming your child or hating your ex, you need to heal and grow. First of all, you have to go, why did I choose a narcissist? Because that's about me. Yeah. See, we're responsible. If we ended up with a narcissist and our child is now attached to them and we don't like it, the first place we have to look is go, oh my God, that says as much about me as it does my ex. I must have some serious trauma if I was attracted to a narcissist. And I must have some serious learning to do because no one ever taught me how to identify narcissists and all these, problems in people. So the solution is quit focusing on your daughter, quit focusing on your ex, go become an expert in your perfect imperfections, work with a professional like me and start healing. That's the only way you're going to help your daughter. You have to become different. You have to be the one who's safe. But the more you argue, fight, blame the other one, you look just like him. Well, now your daughter has nobody. That's not it. I lived this situation. I'm in this situation. And I've made my focus on me. I was the problem. So I went and became an expert. And so a lot of the reason I do all of this is if my kids ever there's one child I'm kind of talking with, but the other one doesn't talk to me. If they ever decide they want to know who I am, I'm leaving. This is my living amends to my daughter. I'm owning the mistakes I made, and this is my expression of the plan I put in place to work on, take ownership, and heal the side of myself that picked a woman who would do that to our daughters. That's on me. My daughter didn't deserve that. And so my channel is about self-ownership, about me as a parent. I owe this to my children, and I don't expect her to ever reach out to me. She doesn't owe me nothing. I owe her everything. That's my job, is to become the best parent possible. And that's why I do this. Ultimately, all of this is my amends for my perfect imperfections that left my children, that placed me in a position where I picked somebody as a partner who would do this to our children. I don't blame her. I don't condone what she did. It's wrong. But remember, we all play a part, and the only part I can control is my part. And so I'm dealing with my side of the street, and that's what we all have to do. Let's see here. Greta, my 28-year-old daughter just spring. Kenny, what do you think is the best way to be happy? Great question, Springtrap. The best way to be happy is go become an expert in healing your childhood trauma, and most of all, your self-deception and denial. The only reason you're unhappy is you don't see how you're deceiving yourselves, how your unhealed trauma from your childhood is creating thoughts and actions that are destroying you, that it's not the other person, that it's not the world, that your childhood and your brain, you're not respond. There are automatic processes in your brain that set you up to repeat your pain from the past. So if you don't make the choice to go heal it, good luck. You got no shot. So there's only one way to do it. Work with an expert like myself, read books, take classes, gain the knowledge, skills, and tools you don't possess to heal the pain from your past, to live in what I call, what makes people unhappy is they're in the worst day cycle: trauma, fear, shame, and denial. The solution is to learn about all that, learn how that's running your life, and then that's what my first book teaches you. And then the authentic self cycle, how to reclaim yourself and be happy, is develop the knowledge, skills, and tools to live in truth, take responsibility, do the healing work, and forgive yourself. That's how you become happy. How do you heal it with a therapist with the appropriate boundaries that are in place in therapy? Yes, childhood programming is shaping us. Why is this not? Great question. Lateith Lightning, Leth Lightning is asking, why is childhood programming not widely accepted in psychology? Because do you know who finances all of the medical colleges, all the medical information? Drug companies. That's why all they're taught is how to diagnose and prescribe medication. So they don't teach any of this stuff we really need to learn. So that's why I'm not, unless, I'm not a big fan of therapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists, unless they've done what my therapist, I went to several therapists, finally found one, and he's the one who taught me this. He goes, Kenny, unless somebody has done a tremendous work outside of their degree program, they're not going to help you, because they don't teach any of this. They don't know it. And that's because they're all funded by the drug companies. The drug companies have a vested interest in funding all of the medical schools. So all the medical schools want to keep the money. And so all they teach them is how to diagnose somebody with a condition and give them medication, which in almost all cases is a complete waste of time and not helpful. Let's see. Lethy Lightning, how do you heal it with a therapist? Well, again, you have to, most therapists don't have good boundaries because they've never done the work on themselves. Like I said earlier, I spent 30 years living this journey. And so my perspective and my ability to work with clients is way beyond what most therapists have. They've never lived the journey. And so, my personal appealing is, you're going to have to interview a lot of people or work with someone like myself. That's your only shot. Can you heal attachment style on yourself? No. That's the other problem. Here's the other issue with personal development is people read books and watch YouTube videos and think they can heal themselves. You can't. You're going to have some improvement. But remember, we're all in self-deception and denial. We have a vision of ourselves that we think this is us, but we're too close to ourselves. We don't even know where we're in deception. Plus, we're using the thinking and feeling parts of ourselves that have been stuck in this dysfunction all of our lives. So when we process things, it's from an underdeveloped, dysfunctional place. So our interpretation of the information is going to be skewed incorrectly. We won't agree with things that we need to agree to. But we won't know that because we're in deception. That's why we work with someone like myself who's lived the journey. And I can see, I'm like, like with my clients, I'm like, yeah, I remember there. I just let them go and I walk them into seeing the truth about themselves. And so the model that I use, what I'm teaching them is how to be me for themselves. Like I don't give them the answers. There's a process I developed where I teach them how to change the way they process within themselves. And I do that by modeling it. Remember, children learn by modeling. And as I said earlier, we're all children. We're stuck in our childhood. Julie and James pointed that out. None of us are adult unless you've done decades of recovery work. You're living your life as a child. So what did all of us go through in childhood? Less than perfect parenting. What do we all need? Parenting. And so I just act the role of a healthy, loving parent. And so with every client, whether they realize it or not, I'm modeling what loving parenting is until they can learn to parent themselves. That's how you raise a child. And really what I'm doing is helping adults mature out of their childhood stage. That's it. Anybody who, well, it depends where you are in the journey. For many clients, I'm too much. They're too early in the journey and they're not ready for this level of truth and responsibility. And that doesn't make me better than them because, look, I wouldn't have any clients. There's a skill set to teaching people who are very early, who don't want truth. They want to stay in deception. Like there's an art form to that. I don't have that skill. Because you basically have to sit in front of somebody for days, weeks, months, even years, allowing them to stay the victim and blame the world until they gain enough self-esteem to recognize, wait a minute, I feel a little better, but something's wrong, something's missing. Maybe there's something about me. And then they move to the next level of teacher and next level and next level and next level. And so I would never have a client if it weren't for this. I'm not good at this. My skill set is for the people who've been seeing therapists, reading books, watching videos. They've seen some improvement, but they can't get over the hump. Well, that's because nobody teaches what I teach. And that's why I started this. These final stages that are the most difficult, the hardest to sell, because they deal with truth and truth doesn't sell. But nobody was in this market. And I knew the reason I spent decades miserable working with so-called experts and never getting anywhere is because nobody taught this. And so I don't care if I don't make money. I want to teach that. That's the legacy I want to leave for my children. That's my amends. So that's why I teach this. So I hope that answers your question, Lightning. Let's see. How do you avoid that from the child to attach themselves to the abuser? You can't. Well, the only way the only way to avoid a child attaching to an abuser is go heal yourself, because then you won't choose an abuser. If they've already done that, the answer is still the same. Go heal yourself. Quit focusing on them, the child and the abuser, and focus on your own healing. It's so hard for people to grasp. Because again, early in recovery, we want to fix them. We want to understand them. And that's because of our high levels of shame and low self-esteem. And we have to start there. That doesn't make a person bad, but your solution is never about them. It's always about you. They're not the problem. They're the opportunity for you to go find the solution. Greta, thank you, Kenny. You're welcome. Clown, Choice, or Nicole said Choice. Who else is here? Definitely good parenting, not something. JMO, I've healed a great amount through YouTube. I think it's totally possible. Like I said, JMO, yeah, you can make progress through books and YouTube videos, but there's a level of recovery you will never achieve. No one will ever achieve if all they're doing is watching videos and reading books and taking classes. Ultimately, it depends how far you want to take your recovery. Like, I'm not disparaging people if that's all they want to do. What that tells me is they've achieved a level that is good enough for them. Okay, good for you. It depends how far you want to go and how much recovery you want, how much peace you want, what kind of relationship you want with yourself and others. Well, I want it a lot. And so, a lot of people, they don't want much. I'm not saying that. I think that's great. But for somebody who really wants to get the most out of life, you'll never get that unless you work with somebody who's lived the journey and can help you see yourself. But you're right, JMO. I know tons of people have learned tons of things from my content, books, and I get emails and private messages nonstop. I mean, it's happened. Look how many times it's happened in this chat. Just having this conversation, people are having realizations that are helping them. But to ultimately overcome all of it and be your own coach for yourself, you have to work with somebody. You will never achieve that on your own. You're limited because you can't see your blind spots. And that's the job of a professional, is to shine the light on the parts you can't see about yourself. Nadia, have you ever thought of writing a children's book? Every morning, my kids and I talk about what we love about ourselves, and we talk about how we feel at dinner. No, I haven't, because that's a whole different skill set. It's not my skill set. I love what you're doing with your kids, sharing what you love about yourselves and all of that. And one thing I always did with my kids was every day at the dinner table, I'd say, what was the favorite part of your day? In other words, I was subliminally teaching them to validate themselves and celebrate their victories and affirm themselves, because our brain is naturally designed to only focus on the negative. So I love what you're doing there. Let's see. I think that's why some people says healing is a lifelong journey. Yes, that's the other thing to recognize about healing. Healing is never complete. It's substantial, but it's never complete, because we're human. We're limited. Look, if any of you have watched enough of my content, I'm dysfunctional all over the place. Like, there's so many videos where you can tell I'm disempowered, or I'm falsely empowered, or I'm just whacked out. Yeah, I'm human. I'm not a god. Just because, it's funny how people will project onto people that do what I do and think we have it all figured out. It might be true we have figured out some things that only a small percentage of people have figured out. But that doesn't mean we don't struggle. We'll always struggle. You'll never achieve 100% healing. But when I'm not at my best, I know what to do. I know how to forgive myself, all those different things. So yeah, recovery is substantial. It's never complete, because we're human and we're limited, and that's okay. Kenny, one important question. Can you take cow parenting therapy with someone who prioritizes their own personal needs and lives in constant... I don't know what cow parenting is. Can you take cow parenting therapy? I have no idea what that is. So Wilson, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. You'd have to, maybe it's a typo. Maybe it's Nicole says co-parenting. Can you co-parenting? Wilson, if you can clarify your question, it looks like there's some typos in there, so I'm not understanding exactly what you're asking. Sherry asked, Thank you for your great points as always. How to overcome my strong guilty feeling when I start to set boundaries with friends and family, but they're upsetting and disappointed with me. Oh, yeah, you're confusing guilt with shame. You're not feeling guilty, you're feeling shame. And so what that tells me is, Sherry, you were most likely abandoned in childhood. And so you're afraid to be yourself, because if you set boundaries, you're afraid they'll walk away. And the only way to heal that is literally obsessive amounts of self-forgiveness. Like, this is one of the ways I work on it. Notice your self-talk. I'm sure whenever you make a mistake, there's a parent's voice beating you down. So like I play tennis, and I noticed a shame piece of me, if I miss a shot. Well, I'm not a professional, and so I berate myself. Come on, Kenny, which was my father's voice. And you know what I do now? Every time I make a mistake, I laugh and I go, I love you, Kenny. And I say it out loud. And there are people everywhere, and they look at me strange, and I don't care. I don't care. I say it all the time. I'm like, I love you, Kenny. And you can tell by the way I say it, it's not lip service. I've learned how to love myself. I've learned how to have overwhelming forgiveness for myself and accept that I'm good enough, that I have worth and value, even in my imperfections. That's what's missing in your process, Sherry, is you're still detached from your inherent value and worth. And the only way to get that is to change your skew that says, if I stand up for myself, I'm bad, I'm wrong, no one likes me. And change the skew to, if I don't stand up for myself, I will think I'm bad and wrong, and I won't like me. Do you see? They're not the problem. We are. We are thinking we're bad and wrong when we love ourselves. So again, we have to go become the parent for ourselves that we never had. Timothy just joined the live. First thing I heard was you saying we try to change the other person instead of ourselves. That's what I'm doing with my mom. That's all of us. Yeah. And since you weren't here earlier, Timothy, that's because of codependence. We've all been raised codependently. And society, think of every movie, every TV show, love is always depicted as somebody changing for us, which is severe love addiction, love avoidance, and codependence. All the models we've seen of what's relationships should be are severely dysfunctional, severely, like horrifically dysfunctional. So, Timothy, my suggestion to you would be, if you're looking for suggestions, head over to my codependence playlist, my relationship playlist, my parenting playlist. If you want to take it a step further, grab my books, Your Journey to Success, Your Journey to Being Yourself. But yeah, what you're describing is low self-esteem, high levels of shame, not because you're bad, but because you experienced childhood trauma, which created codependency in your dynamic. And so you're stuck in the childlike stage of emotional development. And so you're only, and please don't hear me as calling you out, Timothy. I appreciate your vulnerability, but I could say this about anybody on the planet. You could bring me whoever you think is the most successful person who they have it together. And in less than 10 minutes, I can show you they're as perfectly imperfect as all of us. All right. We're all this way because we don't teach these things. So everyone thinks they're an adult and we're just not. So please don't hear me as disparaging you, Timothy. The suggestions I just gave you are true for anybody watching this. It'll all be the same. Okay. See the beauty in failure, perfection is Aaron. Hey, Kenny, your book helped me a lot. It's hard to go down the road, but my life is much better. I'm glad, Aaron. I'm very happy to hear that my book helped you a lot. Not sure which one. If you've only read one of them, I hope you read the other one. If you started with this one, That's great. If you did, I'd highly suggest you get my second one. It takes the concepts in this first book to a whole new level, which will really help you. Heidi, does it make sense that after escaping the last and innumerable amount of domestic violence relationships last year, that I have no desire to try anymore? I just turned 60. I guess it depends on you. Most people give up because they don't want to face themselves. They keep expecting the world to be different. But if we keep picking the same type of person, the person isn't the problem. It's us. So my question to you, Heidi, would be, have you worked with a professional like myself? Like, what type of recovery have you done? The people that want to give up, it's because they haven't done enough recovery. And they think they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but they're stuck here expecting the world to be different. Well, it's not going to get different. You're going to keep getting what you get because you are still who you are. So if you want a loving relationship not filled with domestic violence, what are you willing to do to change you? Because that's the only way you'll get it. See, again, our brain seeks to repeat what it knows. It creates an emotional chemical addiction. So I could put you in a room with 20,000 men right now. Only one of them would be an abuser. That's the only one you tell me you were attracted to. Because if you've been doing this over and over, it's because you haven't done the work to heal it. And so, again, I'm not condoning their behavior, but they're not the problem. Whatever we're seeing in the other person is showing us, however they treat us, it's showing us what we need to heal in ourselves. It doesn't make their behavior okay, but we chose them. That's what you learn in the second book, is how to figure out how you chose this person, place, or thing that's destroying you, that you say you hate. You don't hate it. You keep choosing it because you're screaming at yourself what it is you need to heal so you can reclaim your authentic self and get what you want. But you're in deception and denial, but you don't know how to confront your deception and denial. And that's what this and my coaching teaches you how to do. So somebody who wants to give up has decided they want to stay stuck as the child. That's just the cold, hard truth. That doesn't make you bad or wrong. That's what we all do. So I'm just giving you the answer. Okay, Wilson, co-parenting. Let me see if I can find your thing. Again, it was co-parenting. Where was your question? Shoot. Can you take co-parenting therapy with someone who prioritizes their own personal needs and lives in a constant self-denial of their reality? You can make a request, but I'd let go of the outcome. And it's not your job to make that assessment. So I know for me, I would always make the request and then I'd watch their actions. If they don't take the suggestions or guidance, then I have my answer. But I don't, just because I have experience with somebody, that's codependence, jump to conclusions. Well, I know they won't. You might be right, but have you asked? So I'd ask, and then I'd observe their behavior. If their behavior shows that they are all of those things and they don't want to improve, then I have my answer. But codependents assume they know the answer. I had to learn to gather information. Even if I thought it might be true, I'd always go, wait a minute, am I certain? No, because I haven't asked. I've never been in a co-parenting situation with a professional, so I don't know. So I'm going to make the request and I'm going to observe it. And then I know. I'm going to stay out of what's called making up or imaginary thinking. So that's my answer to you, Wilson. Heidi, I'm in therapy. Well, then good. I'm glad you're in therapy. I hope the person you're working with is qualified. I don't know anything about them and what it is they teach or how they're helping you address this. My hope is all of their focus is on you, your childhood trauma, and at least the things I teach. I think it's the most comprehensive program I found, but that's just my opinion, which doesn't mean nothing, which doesn't mean anything. So I can't speak to that. I know this. If you're not seeing improvement, then that tells me you might want to look for a new professional to help you. Okay, Greta, Heidi, no cost counseling as I'm living. Good for you. Your boy was exciting. Journey, it was super helpful going back and reframing my adverse memories. Aaron, okay, so you did read my first book. I'm glad. Yeah, I would, if you got that much benefit from my first book, then you're ready for this book. When you see how, it really focuses on the shame and self-denial portions of the cycle, which are critical and will give you a tremendous amount of benefit. So I highly suggest, you take that next step. And because I just can't say this enough. And I see, wow, I've been on here 2 hours. I was enjoying this. Maybe I'll do this more. Can I ask a question to everybody? For me to do this more often, would you be willing, if I created a membership thing of maybe $1 or $5 that you had to pay to be a part of these lives? Is that something, is this helpful to you? So if I did this more, would you be okay with something like that? And if so, can you just put a dollar amount in the chat as to, what kind of value this would bring to you if I were to make myself more available? I need promoters. Yeah, I don't really want to be famous. I don't really want to be famous. Nobody survives fame. I mean, I want to make money so I can live a comfortable life, but Barrels, I had an opportunity about 2 years ago. I met with somebody who has made everybody, worked with Oprah, Michael Jackson, everybody you can think of. And after meeting with her, I saw nobody survives fame. It's not good. It'll kill you. And I don't know if you guys know who Banksy is. He's this world famous artist and he paints these incredible paintings, but nobody knows who he is. I would love to be Banksy. I think I've created some wonderful ideas that are very helpful. I would love for the world to know about everything in my books and everything I teach. I just don't want to be famous. I would love to be hidden. There's that guy, Math. Have you seen him? He just draws as he talks. Nobody knows who he is. If I had to do this all over again, I would have done that. And Barrels, thank you so much for the tip. I think that's called the super chat. Thank you. I guess that's your way of saying you got something from this live. But Barrels, can you clarify? Are you saying you'd pay $19.99 each time I went live, or is this just a tip for today? But if people could tell me if they'd be willing to pay, like literally $1. If not, put $0. I don't care. I'm just trying to get feedback. If this is something that I did more often, if you'd enjoy it. Let's see. It's definitely helping. I could only afford $1. That's fine, Heidi. Me too, Heidi. Not fame, but more people. Barrels. I'd like more people to hear me because I think nobody's getting the message I teach. And so I'm seeing all these people teaching stuff and people having the same problems. And I'm like, but you just need to know this. But I don't have the viewership. And so they're missing out. And YouTube suppresses me because I teach truth, and truth, people don't like truth. Nadia, wow, thank you for the tip. I got that. Now I'm feeling, now see, I can't do that. See, here's an example of my perfect imperfections and my dysfunction. I asked for feedback, and now I got tips, and then I felt a sense of shame. So who was it earlier was feeling guilty about setting boundaries. And so I'm sharing this to expose that my childhood popped up and went, oh, I'm not worth a tip. Like, did I just manipulate a tip out of somebody? See, my childhood taught me to always devalue myself. And so even though I know that from my core, I was asking a legitimate question for legitimate feedback. And I got feedback, and I instantly, my father's voice popped in and tried to shame me and go bad. And so that's what happens to all of us. So earlier, I think it was Nadia was talking about, feeling guilt. It's not guilt, it's shame. I'm not worthy. And so, but this is the value of doing this work. Do you see how instantly I've done so much work. I know how my dysfunction works. So I could feel and see and think through what was just happening to me. So the people that are struggling, it's because they haven't done enough recovery work and haven't worked with a professional enough to know that process inside themselves. And they can't process it that quickly and realize, oh, wait a minute, I was about to apologize for the tips I got and go into this, what it really would have been was a very covert, manipulative dynamic where I apologized and, oh my God. And most people that do that, they think they're being honest, but they're in deception. They're being manipulative. And that's what in the past, I would do that. I'd get this nice guy thing when somebody did something for me. I wouldn't just go, thank you, I appreciate that. I do feel I brought value here today. I couldn't do that in the past. And I was in deception and didn't know that dropping down was actually a covert manipulation. And that's what I mean. Unless you work with a professional who can help you see these things and who's lived the journey and can point that out to you, you're only going to get so far in recovery. You just can't get there because you can't see yourself. You're too close to yourself. And plus, most of this stuff takes decades. If you're going to try and do this on your own, man, your process is going to be so slow. So anyway, there's that. All right, let me get back to this. It's been helpful. I haven't paid for any services. I think this actually promotes your books. Oh, so you felt today promoted my books? Yeah, I think there's some truth. I was trying to promote my books because it's just a quicker way. If you want the answers, they're in my books. You'll get to the solutions that you're asking for. And I do think I've written 2 very good books. So I would agree that there's been some promotion of my books. Let's see. I want to be that one help healer. I can't put a dollar value on that, but if you allow donations and tips. Yes, Susan, thank you for that. As you can see, I don't know what it's called, a super chat. All I know is there's a $ down below that says show your support for Kenny so people can leave tips. eTech Connect said, I would pay for a weekly. This helps. Oh, that's kind of what I was thinking was once, maybe a Wednesday night, a Saturday, Sunday morning, whether it was once or twice a week. eTech, you haven't popped up at all. I really appreciate your feedback. That's what I'm looking for is, would this be something you guys would enjoy? So thanks for that, eTech, for suggesting that. Susan, I agree. Okay, wait, I work for tips. When people give me fat tips, I have to ask if they meant to. And yeah, Barrows, that's what I was just about to do and caught myself. Yeah. Aaron says, yeah, I just wanted to personally tell you how much I appreciate your work. A lot of people need to hear your message. I say do it for free. Your reward is connecting. Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Maybe it's a mix. Maybe sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. That's really good feedback. Um, let's see. I watched a couple vids of yours about 4 months ago. They helped me understand a lot. Love, Dad. Hey, Pops, I know you were damaged. You passed your pain to me. You were wrong. I am good. Wait a minute. E-Tech Connect? I'm not sure this sounds like somebody I know. They're all right. I just have to say this, E-Tech Connect, I don't know who you are, but you just said some things in a way that are just like one of my daughters that I'm talking to. And if that's you, sweetie, I love you. And you're going to make me cry. Thank you for forgiving me if this is you. If not, I'm just having an emotional moment. I don't know if she has a YouTube channel. I'm just the way this is being written. Or maybe you were just writing to your dad. I don't know. At any rate, it sure sounded like one of my daughters. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to expose anybody. Unrelated question. What are my hobbies? I love to go for walks. I love to relax by my pool. I like to read, at least try to get smarter. I don't know if I can, but I love jazz clubs, comedy clubs, blues clubs, camping, fly fishing, tennis, golf. As you can tell, I don't know if you guys ever notice this. This might be a shock to you, but I love fashion. I know, shocking. Yeah, you would think I hate clothes. Yeah, I love, man. I played 2 pro sports, both hockey and golf. But if you give me the choice between watching the game or going to the mall, I'm like, let's go to the mall. Especially when I'm in a relationship with a woman, I can outshop any woman on the planet. And I'm fantastic at dressing a woman. My mom was very haute couture, and our favorite thing to do was shop together. So I can look at a woman, I'm like, you're size 4, you need this cut, this color. And so when I've been in relationships, we, go to the department store and they just go right to the dressing room. Like they learned he's better at this than me. And I just bring him stuff. We play Pretty Woman. Even if we didn't buy anything, I just love a well-dressed woman. Oh, nothing more attractive. And so I love fashion. So quite a few other things, but that gives you an idea. Thanks for asking to get to know me a little bit. The books are super helpful. Yeah. Unfortunately, Aaron, I got to put the commercials in the YouTube videos. It's the only way I can, because, my viewership isn't like most people's. I have to somehow get compensated so I can pay. I pay a lot of people to help me do this because I only have so much emotional reserves. And so the commercials pay them. Like, I don't have the viewership where I'm making tons of money off YouTube. I make very little money each month, but it's at least a little something to offset some of the cost for all the people I employ to make all of this stuff for you. Clown says, yeah, I think they're speaking to their dad's ghost. Could be. Sure sounded like one of my kids. My name is Bill. I've been a mess. Okay. All right, Bill. Sorry, Bill. You sounded just like my daughter. I'm sad to hear that you've been a mess. I really encourage you. Just start with the free stuff. I offer a ton of free stuff. Start there. Yeah, I love to fly fish. Clown. Yes for Sherry says yes for a membership. I love story. It's fun. All right. I'm gonna wrap it up there. It's been a couple of hours. And I think we got through quite a bit of stuff. But yeah, I'll figure out how much more to do this. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to have these discussions. Thank you for the tips, and look forward to seeing all of you next time and helping you in any way I can. Have a great day. Now I got to figure out how to end this thing.